same team.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. But that stuff with the transgender bathrooms, I gotta say, man, and it's really weird for me. Sometimes I just can't. I can't even believe I hold some of the positions I do, because I grew up like a kind of left-wing kid, and I was like raised by a single mom in New York. That's kind of where I belong culturally. But I really can't. It's almost like the kooky conservatives, the religious kooky conservatives who I just dismissed for years as like, this is just insane, had more of they had a grain of truth that I didn't realize. Like, they'd be like, you can't legalize gay marriage or they'll start coming after the kids. And you're like, well, that's just insane. Gay marriage gets legalized, and the next year they're like, kids should be able to take hormones to suppress that. And you're like, whoa, this is kind of weird. It's very weird to me that the left didn't take a minute to celebrate this victory on gay marriage that they had been fighting for my entire life. They got a huge victory. The Supreme Court came in and forced it on the remaining 20 states or so who weren't going to vote for it. They forced it on them, and there wasn't a big backlash. That one chick went to jail for 3 days. It's not like the
one in Oklahoma wouldn't marry gay folks.
Yeah, Wendy Davis, I think.
Something like that.
And then she and then it's not like, there was this wave of Republicans who rose up we're going to repeal or we're going to write a law to reverse that Supreme Court decision. It's no, actually, they elected the first pro-gay marriage president. It's you won on this issue, and immediately as soon as they won, they're like, now transgender bathrooms, now this, now
Well, I don't think they're related. And this is why. I think, first of all, the gay marriage thing is consenting adults. They should be able to do whatever they want to do. The difference between gay people and transgender people is pretty radical.
No, I agree.
Almost the same difference as between straight people and gay people.
Yes, but they're in the same four letters according to the left.
Yeah, but that whole LGBTQA, A+, whatever the fuck it is now, there's a bunch of new ones that they've added on, asexual.
No, I agree with you.
Yeah.
I think it's actually insulting that they lump them together as if it's the same thing. I mean, I think it's weird that when Trump tweeted the thing about trans people not being able to serve in the military, I saw a bunch of people being like, Trump, has come out against LGBT rights. And you're like, what the hell does this have to do with LG or B?
Yeah.
Why is that?
It's crazy. They're just a gang. Lump it all together, a big progressive gang of acronyms. But what I was going to say about all this stuff being lumped in together is that the left has been the side that has looked towards the hard science when it comes to global warming, right? The hard science when it comes to climate data. Those are the ones that are always pushing, whether they're right or wrong or getting the right data. They're the ones that are really harping on the science. And if you looked in terms of the amount of people that are working in universities, they're far more left than there are right. Far more left professors than there are right. So you would think, okay, you have this base of academia and knowledge on the left. But yet the left is the side that's willing to entertain the idea that a young kid should take hormones to alter their sex, when you know for a fucking fact that when you're a young person, you're extremely confused, constantly, back and forth, left and right. There are hormonal changes. The cerebral cortex, the frontal cortex doesn't even really fully develop. They don't say you're a real fully developed person until you're 25 if you're a man, which explains a lot of the shit that I did, right? It's a lot of people listening that are 20 and retarded. They're like, what the fuck am I doing with my life? Exactly, dude. You're barely an adult.
Oh, you think about things you do at 22 and you're like, I can't believe I'm the same human.
I can't believe I'm the same human. But so this same party, this same progressive mindset that is so incredibly open-minded, but yet also so deeply embedded in academia, far more than the right is. This is the side that is willing to put aside all that they know about biology and psychology and physiology and children. Put aside that. A lot of people are, not all of them. I don't want to lump anybody together. Put aside that for progressive brownie points, for saying that you are so incredibly open, this child obviously knows that he is a she or she is a he, and we need to start addressing them as that, and this is just a fact. Well, it's not just a fact, it's a conversation that we should have, and I think it varies in individuals, and I think there are some people that I have personally talked to that are transgender people that for sure are happier being a woman or a man, and they were born in what they feel is the wrong body, and I absolutely 100% salute their right to go out and do that. But we should have a real conversation as to how many people is that really happening to? Right. How many of these people have a psychological issue? How many people, is there a physical trait that we're missing? Is there some switch that gets flipped when they're young? I mean, it's a fascinating aspect of human beings that you are one sex and wish you were another.
Right, and it seems strange to me that on the left, the rules always seem to be, there's this topic, like it's like the left's thing forever. It's always like, we need to have a national conversation about race.
Right.
But if you say the wrong thing, I want you ruined.
Yeah.
You know, and it's the same thing with like the transgender thing. It's like they want to like, it's like we want to have a conversation about this. They put this forward as like, this is an issue we need to talk about. And then also, by the way, you're not allowed to say anything. So if you bring up the 40% suicide rate and say maybe this isn't due to societal oppression because there's no real link between societal oppression and high suicide rates, now you need to be fired or something.
But
you know?
they say 40% of transgender people commit suicide, and the people that want to support the idea that it's not any sort of a mental illness in any people, and sure, it's not in some. We're not generalizing, but it must be in some, right? The people that want to deny that say the reason why they are suicidal is because they don't get a chance to express their genuine, authentic self, which is a very good point. So it's not that either or is right.
No, I'm open to the argument.
I am too. I'm open to the argument that the 40% is possibly, it's maybe a combination of those two factors. Maybe there's some people that are mentally ill that are suicidal in the first place, and they hope that maybe becoming a woman would make them feel better, and it didn't work out. There's a whole website where people I think it's called Transgender Regret or something like that, and it's all people that switched over and were like really upset that they did it, and then realized it was like some strange phase they were going through or whatever. And then, you know, there's people that are, I'm sure, suicidal because they want to be one way, and people just constantly shit on them and bully them and heckle them, and that's what's causing them to be so deeply. It's not like one or the other.
No, and I think in every individual case, there's probably like a complex, a complex set of, different causing factors. So yeah, I agree with that. I just think it's like, no matter how, look, obviously I'm for, like everyone owns their own body and should be able to do whatever they want to it. If you can find a doctor who's willing to perform a surgery on you, have whatever surgery you want to have. And I think transgender people should have the freedom to do that. Truthfully speaking, though, I don't really see anyone, not that anyone isn't saying that, but I don't really see anyone disagreeing with that. Most people seem to agree.
But there are people that think it's a sickness and they absolutely shouldn't be allowed to. But what is a
sickness?
Maybe,
but it seems like that's pretty rare. Like even the people who are getting a lot of heat for like their stance on transgender issues. Like I've never heard Gavin McInnes say it should be illegal. I've never heard like Ben Shapiro say it should be illegal. What they will say is that I'm not going to pretend
that you're a woman.
I'm going to acknowledge that you have a Y chromosome, and like that to me is like, okay, that has nothing to do with your freedom to have a surgery. This guy has a freedom of thought to describe what's going on, and it is kind of crazy. Like you said with the global warming thing, like it's like the left prides themselves on being the science party. Like we believe in science. Although the problem is that, and like I try very hard to like wrap my head around all of these different, like issues. And I've read a decent amount on climate change, and it's pretty tough stuff. It's not easy. It's not like some of these other issues that are much easier to understand. And I will say that about 90% of the people on the left who are like, have the science, they haven't looked into it. They've just been told this is the science. And they're like, oh, great, now I get to bash people by having the science. Because if you're going to say like you're the side that believes in science, I'm sorry. To deny that there are biological effects on gender is
but that's such
as anti-science as you can be.
Such a small fringe group that do make that distinction. They think that there's no biological difference in the sexes, and those people are really just crazy people that have pushed it so far. They're so far left that they're in some crazy alternative reality.
There are a lot of those. I look at it like the same way. Scientologists have like their levels. I look at like left-wing ideology.
Like OTC or something.
Yeah,
like that?
It's like the social justice warrior who's like out in the front lines, like protesting Christina Hoff Sommers.
Right.
Like she's like top level left-wing mindset. But there's a lot. But no, the idea that gender is a social construct is pretty well accepted, I think, on the left, and to me that is insane.
I don't think that's true. I think it's only accepted in a very fringe group, especially academics.
Maybe you're right.
And people in school that protest about it, and people that are super active social justice warriors. I think if you polled people whether or not they think there's a biological difference, and you gave them three choices, yes, no, and duh, that most people would say duh. Like,
okay.
Duh.
Here's the only thing I'll disagree. I think you're 100% right if they were taking that test anonymously.
Anonymously.
I think if they had to put their names behind it, I think you'd get a much different answer.
I think you're really right.
I talked to college professors.